Okay, I heard a lady one time said that said when you go into your husband's house, don't pretend to be strong or don't pretend to know how to do everything. That be lazy and allow your husband to take care of you. Well, it's okay to allow your husband to take care of you. But one of the things you have to understand is that as you move into your husband's house or you move in with your wife, some of you cannot wait to get out of your family's house, to get away from your parents and start your own family. You can see almost everything that is wrong in your parents' marriage, and you just can't wait to just go and go start your own life with your own family, with your own husband, and all of that. And you have so much high expectations. Some of you, the reason you want to get married because you think that marriage is freedom. That when you move into your husband's house, you get to sleep as long as you want. You will not have to work. You don't have to do anything. Your husband is going to get a house help. They'll be doing everything. You just be madam and you just sit down and all of that stuff. As God begins to shift you into a place of position, one of the prerequisites of freedom is that freedom brings about responsibility. There are a lot of things that God does for us in the days where we depend on people or where we have little or no experiences. In the days of what the Bible will call, in the days of servitude, there are things that is done for you. In the days of servitude, your slave master or your instructor or the person that you're working under dictates, have control over your time and how you use it. They decide on the things that you eat. They make provision for food. In the place of slavery, there are certain comforts that are placed around you. The comfort is not there to, for your growth. It is not there to help you. Those comfort is not there it's not there because the people love you. But those comfort are placed around your life because they want to keep you bound. They want to keep you hostage and they want to keep you in control. I watched the movie Roots, and one of the things I noticed about slavery is that all of the things that the slave needed was put around him. The slave needed shelter. They gave them shelter. The slave needed to eat. Of course, they have to feed them because these are the people that works for them. It's just like your car. If you don't fuel your car cannot take you from one place to another. If you don't maintain your car very well, your car will not serve you. And so certain things were done for the slave, not because they loved them. When the slave put to bed, they had doctors. The doctors were white men who came and took care of the slave when they put to bed to make sure that the child and the mother, came out of childbed clean. It is not because they loved them that they did all of those things. Those were ways in which the slave masters preserved, their investment. They kept their investment so that their investment is going to serve them. When they took the slave out for work, they provided food for them to eat. In the scorching sun, they provided them with water. All of those things were things that they provided the slave with. Those are things, that is how you know that you are in a place of bondage or you are in a place of servitude. Certain things are placed around you. Certain things are put around you. It is not put around you because the person loves you. It is not there because it is not there because the person is your uncle or the person is your auntie. No. That is not why those things are there. Those things are there because of the things that you are doing for them. So they put certain comforts around you because they don't want you to wander off away. They don't want you to go away. Just like working a job and you tell yourself, let me keep this job. Let me do this job because my salary, because the salary is consistent. Let me keep doing this job. But you don't know that you are slave to the person you're working for. And one of the things that we fail to realize is that the moment we get out of our servitude, the moment we get out of a place where the Bible called Egypt. You know, Egypt is a place of servitude. Egypt is the place where you are being enslaved. Egypt is the work, is the job that you're doing right now, that you're being paid. The moment you get out and try to be an entrepreneur, one of the things that scares people away, that scares people away is that when they finally get out and they see how hard it is, they want to run back to the things that they knew before. You know, the moment you get out of when God brings you out of a particular place and maybe you get married and then you start to raise your own family, only for you to realize that now that you have to raise your own family, you have to work twice as hard, because now there are people that you are taking care of. Now there are people that you are responsible for, that cannot take care of themselves. Some of us, we don't even realize it when we start to make certain complaints. When I was in my father's house, I was not suffering like this. When I was in my father's house, this is not how you carried me from my father's house. Women has a way of saying that all the time. This is not how you carried me from my father's house. And sometimes your friends, your cliques, they don't even help, at all, because when they come to your husband, when they come and visit you in your husband's house, they be like, my dear, you they suffer. Why are all these things going on in your life? Look at you. You don't dark finish. What thing happen? You don't slim finish. You won't be fresh. I beg, marriage no be body, no. Marriage no be prison, no. How you will come there for marriage? Come they look tattered? Come they look useless like this? Be careful when people begin to tell you all of those things, because they begin to give you a different perception, of what freedom is. They begin to give you a different perception of what the reality of what God is taking you through is. So the fact that you are married does not necessarily mean you're still going to glow the way you used to glow in your father's house. The fact that you're married and now you're in your house or in your husband's house does not mean you're still going to be, as spotless as you used to be in your father's house. What I want us to understand is that I want us to really understand what the blessings of God look like. Because we think that the blessings of God is something, it's a negate struggle. We think that the blessings of God comes outside struggle and it comes outside of pain. We feel like because we are now married that God has blessed us with this husband, we are still going to look as fresh. We are still going to, be glowing as we used to glow before. We think we don't have to work or we don't have to do anything. We think that is what the blessings of God look like. No, the blessings of God is work. Is work. You see, when the children of Israel finally stepped into the land of Canaan, God told them something. In the wilderness, if you watch carefully in the wilderness, if you study very carefully the book of Exodus, from Exodus to Numbers, you study very well, you find out that during the place in the wilderness, one of the things, the way God provided for them in the wilderness is God provided for them through a miracle. They didn't have to cook. They woke up to a freshly cooked meal from heaven. And they ate. They didn't have to work for their own food. When they were thirsty, God brought water out of the rock and God gave them water to drink. But when they were about to cross the Red Sea, God told Moses, he said, stretch the rod to the sea and the sea is going to part ways and you have to walk through dry ground. They didn't have to do anything in the wilderness. They didn't have to walk. They didn't have to do anything. They had to wake. They woke up every morning. The Bible says that for over 40 years that they stayed in the wilderness, their clothes did not worn out. Neither did their shoes worn out as well. The wilderness is a place where miracle happen. Just like you are in your father's house and you don't know how the meal came from. You don't know what your parents has to go through to put food on your table. You didn't know what your parents had to go through to give you your monthly allowance. All of those things, they kept coming. But now you are in a place where God has promised you, because marriage is supposed to be a blessing. Now you are in your husband's house. You have to work. You have to take care of your children. Now you begin to see all of those things as work. Be careful. Be careful not to murmur in your place of blessing. Be careful. I say this because I want you guys to be conscious not to murmur out of your place of blessing. I say this because I don't want you, because a lot of time we have wandered out of the place of our blessing. We have wandered out of the place that God has placed us for, for God to provide for us. When the children of Israel finally came into the promised land, when they needed food, Joshua told them, he said, this is corn, go to the land and plant. Now God is no longer providing for them again through a miracle. God is now telling them to go into the field and they have to work for themselves for them to eat. Are they in the promised land? Yes. Do they have to work? Yes. When they needed water, Joshua told them to dig wells. When they're about to cross the Jordan River, Joshua didn't have to, stretch rod. There was no rod for Joshua to stretch. God told them, he said, walk to the water. So in your place, in your promised land, in your Canaan, God needs you to, put in the effort, and then he was going to assist you. Because in your place of Canaan, you need faith in order for you to survive in your place of Canaan. There has to be something that you do in return in your place of Canaan. This is why I struggle with people who come out of their parents' houses and they be like, please, 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 I don't know how to cook. I don't cook. I don't do laundry. I even in my father's house, my parents, they knew that I'm very, very lazy when it comes to house chores. Are you serious? You are lazy when it comes to house chores? You are lazy to take care of yourself. You are lazy to take care of your home. You cannot do all of these things. See, this is just the reason. This is just the reason why a lot of people cannot even end up in their husband's house. Because the mentality of Egypt is still with you. You still expect things to be done for you the way it used to be, it used to be from your parents' house. You still expect somebody to come into your life and do certain things for you because that was how you were raised in your parents' house. Certain things had to drop off of you in order for you to be able to step into the promises that God has given to you. A lot of girls are praying that, God, give me my own husband. God, give me my own family. God, give me my own this. But you are praying for things that you are not prepared for. You're praying for things that you have not positioned yourself for. Because in order for you to really step into your place of Canaan, there has to be a level of circumcision that has to occur in your life. The circumcision I'm talking about here is circumcision of the mind. The transformation of your mind, the renewing of your mind. You have to be Canaan, your place of promise, your husband's house, needs a new level of thinking. Your place of promise needs a new mindset. Your place of promise needs you to reposition yourself differently. Because right now you're no longer in your parents' house anymore. This is why I don't like families, I don't like parents who spoils their children too much. Your child is 15 years old. Your child is 18 years old. You still have house help in your house that cooks for her. You still have house help that takes care of her laundry. All she does is to wake up in the morning, eat, and sleep. That is all she does. The only thing she does, she wakes up in the morning, eats, sleeps, goes for shopping, and then she comes back and then take her bath. That is the only thing. Some of us have spoiled our children and we have not really prepared them for where God is taking them to. Most of us, our parents are the reason why we are not married. Most of us, our parents are the reason why we are still, single and we are not married. Most of us, our parents are the reason why we are still struggling today because they did not prepare us for where God is taking us to. They did not prepare us for the promise, of God. They did not prepare us for the future. Because the people that God brought out of Egypt Egypt could not leave their minds. Certain things and certain structures, that came out of that were implanted there by their slave masters, because they could not be delivered out of it. They stayed in the wilderness for 40 years and they died over a journey of 40 days. God could not bring them to Canaan because Canaan, your promised land, requires a new mindset. It requires you to have a new mindset. It requires you to think differently. It requires a level of repositioning. You have to consciously do. There are certain things, there are certain treatments you were getting from your father's house that you need to be delivered from in order for God to take you to where he's about to take you. Some of us cannot be delivered from the way that things were done in our parents' house. Some of us cannot even, stay in a relationship, because whenever you get into a relationship, some of the things that naturally is expected of you, you see them as work and you see them as suffering. You see them as, you see them as being a slave just because certain things are required of you. Some of us are yet to be delivered. And so the reason why you cannot stay in that relationship, the reason why you cannot stay in that relationship and let the relationship materialize to something that is more meaningful, is because when certain things are required of you, you see them as suffering, you see them as pain, you see them as hatred, you see them as you not being loved anymore. The picture I'm trying to paint for you is that freedom is responsibility. Freedom is responsibility. Those days in your father's house, you didn't have to do certain things for yourself. And now that you are in your husband's house, that you have to work and do certain things for yourself, you begin to think that you are caged, or there are certain things that you begin to see yourself as being enslaved. Have you ever heard somebody tell you that they are being enslaved in their husband's house? Those are slavery mentality, because you feel you don't have to work. Some people, God has blessed them to the point that they now have their own job. They are no longer, accountable to anybody. No, they are now working for themselves. Now they open their shop whenever they feel like. They open their businesses whenever they feel like. Those are slavery mentality, because freedom requires certain responsibility of you. Freedom requires work. Bible says that as long as the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest shall not cease. They shall not cease. That means that if you don't plant anything on the ground, don't expect to reap anything. And so freedom looks differently. Freedom is work. That is what I want you to understand. Because now that you're working for yourself, you have to work twice as hard. Because now that you have control over your time and how you use it and how you use that time, you have to be able to be in more places than one, because you have control over your time. Please, I want you to understand that what God is bringing you into, the family that God is bringing you into, the place that you are right now, the things that you have to do for your family, the things that you have to do for your husband, it does not mean that you are being a slave. It does not mean that they don't love you. Those are the things that are required of you now that you have your own place and now that you are in your promised land. Thank you for being a part of today's podcast. I don't know what this is. I just felt I should just put this word out there. But it's my prayer that this word was helpful to you. It's my prayer that you learn a thing or two in what I've just said, enough to make you have a change of mindset. My name is Freeman Achi, and this is what I like to do when I'm not behind the camera, when I'm not taking photos. So information are on the screen on how you can book my services. I'm available to travel anywhere in the world. I do events, wedding, portrait photography, fashion, and all of that stuff. My Instagram handle also is on the screen there for you to go check out my portfolio. All right, thank you for being a part of today's podcast, and I'll see you guys in the next one.